All right, here we are with another episode of the High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Ryan.
How's it going today?
Doing wonderful. How are you?
I am great. I am great. Hey, we've got a guest in house today. We're spotlighting Jeff Davis.
Yes.
Account manager Jeff Davis, and we'll get into who he is, how long he's been here, and what he does. But we're going to start him out with the question of the day, and this will be a fun one. This should be a good one. Okay, your question of the day, Jeff, is what is the worst plumbing issue you've ever had in your house, and how did you fix it?
Oh boy!
I don't. First off, I have a lot of women in my house.
Don't say who caused it.
They're family, right? But for us men, I don't think you should even be able to answer this question if you haven't at least cleaned the drains out of the hair at some point.
That's like foundational.
Yeah, that's very foundational to this question.
As I look at the top of my head, I realize I'm part of the problem.
That's where that went.
Well, yeah, that must be where it's going.
Well, I'm glad these cameras are front facing.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I would say, so we have a basement in our house and had 4 kids, and we were trying to accommodate all the rooms for those kids as they were growing up. And so I realized I was going to have a bathroom down there. And so are you guys familiar with a upflush toilet?
No.
Nope. This is new.
Yeah. Well,
Up and toilet doesn't usually go together.
yeah. So in order for that to work, there's got to be a fair amount of pressure generated by said unit. You know, so the pump. I mean, that thing can shoot poop probably 40 feet. I mean, in a straight line.
Holy cow. Okay.
So whenever I bought that thing, it was guaranteed for 800 or 8,000 flushes or something like that. So, it's hard to put a number on how many of those you're actually going to get done. Well,
Quantifying that in the store would be hard, I would think.
So I got
Having your calculator out while you're at the toilets in Home Depot.
No.
And so anyway, I got 2 kids through that, and the third one had moved down to the basement, and this thing quit functioning. Okay, and they're quite expensive, and so I decided that as much as I didn't want to, I was going to have to tear into that thing and figure out what it is. So the toilet stays there, and this unit is on the back of it. Right, it's a box. It's a sealed box, and so you have to unhook the plumbing from it, and had to take it outside, of course, and I was all gloved up, masked up.
What?
And I mean, so there was a part that there was something that got stuck under one of the little float valves down there in the bottom, and the thing just ran constantly, right? So I had to get that out. Well,
Whatever it was. Yeah.
after 2 kids and I don't know, probably 6 years of residue. So you open that thing up, and like I said, I was gloved up, masked up, and
Still not prepared.
still not prepared.
There was pressure or something? Or?
No, it's just it's totally unhooked from the pump's unhooked and everything.
Yeah.
But and it's a lining in there that seals it all in. And but anyway, you had to get in there and you had to clean it all out first to see what the problem was. So after several garden hoses and splashbacks and that sort of thing, I finally get to the part there in the bottom and figured out what it was and got online and found a replacement. And so a couple of weeks later, I get the replacement part and put it in there, and felt pretty good about my work I'd done. And so I get back down there in the basement, you put it back behind the toilet, and you got to, it plugs into the wall. It's powered by electricity, and then you hook it to a 3/4 inch pipe. Well, it's hooked to this 3/4 inch pipe by this little kind of a rubber elbow, and whenever that toilet pumps, that elbow goes. I mean, it's expanding with the pressure. and it expanded to the point that my hose clamp that I had on there broke, and so I got a full facial shot of all the contents of that. Of course, it was
clean.
It was yeah.
As clean as a toilet could
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Right. Till it sprays you in the face.
Yeah.
Right.
Until it sprays you in the face. And so that happened a couple of times. And got it back together, but every time I hear that thing cycle down there, I have recurring
You
nightmares.
scream at him, stop using that thing.
What's going on? So that was it.
Well, we've never had the phrase "shoot and poop" on the High Ground
This is new.
podcast before.
This is new.
I'm
Even with-
disappointed. I thought you would tell that story about the truck stop because that kind of was a overpressure situation.
no.
I don't think we can do that.
No,
in
let's
here.
not do that.
Well, Sal, the ball's in your court now to top that.
Oh, well, I can't. I don't think I don't have an overpressure toilet. But when I built our house, and I tried to do as much as possible, cheaply as possible. It's a good home, but I did some of the plumbing, and some of my friends did the plumbing. So as anybody that could come over and work on stuff, install the plumbing. Part of it runs uphill.
Jeff's got the fix.
I don't think I want to go there, but anyhow, usually through coaxing, running hot water and stuff, and snakes, keeping in good shape. We had guests over from Ohio, good friends of ours, and that was the time whenever the drain decided to just plug.
Was it because they were from Ohio?
I never blamed them for that. I feel like it didn't have anything to do with that.
Oh, okay.
But fortunately, it was the gray water drain. But I hope my wife never listens to these. But she, coming from the city, she would put a lot of things down the sink.
Sure.
Thinking that the
It'll go.
thinking that it'll grind it up and put it down there with the anyway. So it plugged up tight. I mean, it was bad. And so we were going to go fishing, and I told everybody, I was like, just go. And I had the reciprocating saw in my hand, and I was like, it'll be better if everybody just leaves, and I'll take care of this. In that moment when you're got the saw in your hand and you know that you're not going to go back, right? Once
done it.
Once you do this, and I mean, when I cut that pipe, just, there was no
Some pressure?
kitchen. There was decades worth of grease and
Right.
everything that came out. You would have thought that I would have had a bucket there, but I didn't.
Nobody that knows you would have thought that.
No, thank you very much.
That would have been my number 2 story. Same
You've
thing
done
happened
something
to me.
like that, too.
Exactly.
But I got it all together and put an outlet in there, and ironically, there is still a bucket, little bitty plastic bucket hanging up there to this day, just in case I ever need it again.
Nice.
But I've got a plug to route it out. So now
Well
it's in
done.
your court. So what have you done?
Well, so I don't have any. It's not dirty water was the problem. So Christmas Eve in 2022, I had gotten up and we were going to have Christmas at our house that day, and so I got up and made this huge breakfast. Just got done fixing all the kids. You could hear the kids start to stir around upstairs, and so
Christmas Eve day.
this is Christmas Eve day.
Okay.
Yeah, in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't remember what time, but it's 9:30-ish. Now, there's a picture of that Carla took of me because I just received like this huge sampler thing of hot sauces. So I just got done with making breakfast, and so she's like, show us the hot sauce thing. So I held it up. So it's time-stamped of when that happened. So they take this picture, and and so everything is, house is just ready. I mean, it's all just what you would consider perfect for the holiday. 7 minutes later, the first recessed light in our kitchen becomes a shower head. I mean, water straight down out of that ring, just a perfect circle of water, right down onto the island or the bar. And then the next one starts, and then the next one starts.
Oh.
And you're like, at that point in time, you're panicking because you're like, I don't have any idea what. So long story short, what had happened was the day before, if you remember in that year, it was like 42 degrees when we all left to work the day before Thanksgiving or the day before Christmas Eve. And by 9 o'clock that night, it was like 4 degrees and the wind was blowing like 30 mile an hour. It froze and busted a pipe in our house between floors 10 foot in from the outside wall.
Jeez.
I have no idea how it ever happened, but that's in between floors. You've got the heat from both floors surrounding that, plus you're 10 foot in, and it busted that pipe. And it had apparently run until it found a spot to break through. So I go outside, not thinking that there's a water shut off behind the water heater, so I'm out looking for the water meter in the yard. But there's probably 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, so I can't find it.
It's just panic time.
So I run back in the house because I can't get it shut off, thinking errantly that, well, maybe it's quit by now.
Of course,
right.
Why would it?
Right. So there's a beam between our living room and our kitchen, and by that point, it is running down both sides of that beam, and our bedroom is next to the kitchen. And it's running down the inside of the wall of the bedroom at that point in time. These are all hardwood floors.
Gosh.
And so ultimately we get it stopped. And but I guess the good part of this whole story is my wife was part of a Bible study at that point in time. And she just sent a text out to that there's a 911 and we would like to have some towels. We need some towels and we need some buckets. And I mean, these people show up on Christmas Eve. We never replaced the floor at all. They completely saved the floor. But these folks just showed up and donated their time to keep this all from being quite the disaster that it was. But one thing that was funny is the plumber that came on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
Yeah, the Christmas Day. I called him
He's
and
cheap.
he said, well, I can come. And he said, at least locate the problem. But I think he said that they had gone from not having any calls on Christmas Eve to having 1,200 calls on the list by Christmas morning because of this whole issue.
Oh my God.
But he shows up to the house and he was like, well, help me figure out, because at this point in time, the only breach that we've had is around all these recessed lights running down that beam and off the inside wall. But you still don't really know, because it's been 21 years since we built the house, so I didn't know where the pipe was.
Is it drop ceiling?
Nope.
Oh
No.
my.
No.
So you got drywall.
Yeah, oh yeah. So he comes in with this Milwaukee reciprocating saw. He's got his Sawzall, battery-powered Sawzall, and he's like, well, where's that water line going upstairs? So I show him where the bathroom is upstairs where that water line's going. So he comes down and he just turns his reciprocating saw battery up. It just starts knocking holes in the ceiling. I mean, just knocking holes. He's like, you're going to have to replace all this anyway. I'm not hurting you a bit. I mean, literally just started busting holes in the ceiling until he found the pipes, and then he fixes. We find a huge break. He fixes it. He says, go turn the water on. Go turn the water on. He screams, shut it
Oh
off.
no.
There's another break in that water line. It broke that water line at 2 different spots inside the house. And the second break was even farther in from the outside wall. So I really don't know what
Explain
happened.
that,
But it
yeah.
did trigger you to replace a bunch of pipes
Yeah.
thinking they were brittle and dry. So anyway.
Every
that's-
time I hear or overhear you tell that story, I just think, I mean, that was such an anxiety for me because I've got that old not Plex, but the old PVC
Yep.
water lines, and they're just getting brittle. They're old, and that has haunted me, that story. And so finally, I just called a plumber, and I was like, hey, I'm going to estimate to replace all these old PVC water lines. And I thought, I really never really made the connection that how they would have to go through the floor to every
Oh, yeah.
sink and toilet and everything else. And they made me a very reasonable estimate. And then I was kind of grumbling about how long it was taking. I was at work, and
I guess it was a job.
it was a big job.
Wow.
And but I rest easier now knowing that and you should too, knowing that you'd probably save me from having that same experience.
I do. I'm glad it helped. Yeah, I'm glad it helped. So, hey, let's move on.
Well, that's another episode of the High Ground.
This has been great.
Right. So, Jeff, you're not a plumber. But,
I am not.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. And again, we thank you for being here. And so we'll get to your job, your professional life. Tell us a little bit about yourself personally.
Okay. My wife and I are from Southern Kentucky. We kind of make the joke that we fit in here around like sore thumbs in Seymour. We're Baptists from Kentucky and around all these German Lutherans. But the main difference there would be that they always say they're from the motherland. I'm from the promised land, so that would be
There you go.
that'd be a little bit different. But my wife and I both went to school at the University of Kentucky, and we have four children, 4 grown children, and 3 of those are here locally in the school system in Seymour, teaching and administration. and three of them are married. And then I have one son that's in the military, and they're in D.C. now. In fact, I saw your High Ground Cup there. He took his High Ground Cup to Syria whenever he was deployed. So it's been in Syria.
Nice.
and
Well
Iraq.
traveled.
So, yeah. So,
And he is moving up in rank, isn't he?
he's captain now.
Captain.
There at the Pentagon. So, but proud of all my kids, and we have grandkids that are close, and I get to see 3 of those every morning before I come to work. So that's a joy. And oftentimes in the afternoon, you get to see them whenever I come home. So that's great. So we live here in Seymour, and we've traveled in been in Ohio for 5 years before we came back down this way. But that's kind of the short story.
Well, what about so tell us about, that's a good lead in to what brought you, tell us about the history. So University of Kentucky, and I think your wife has a degree in agronomy too, right?
She does in ag econ.
Yep.
She does in
So
farm management.
What brought the Davis family? How did you ultimately end up in Southern Indiana?
Well, there's not a lot of row cropping there in Kentucky where I was from. We're from central Kentucky down around Lake Cumberland. And so we had tobacco and beef cattle and some hay and just a few row crops. But I was interested in an occupation that I could be outside, and I like talking to people. And so I figured out that I was going to have to do physics if I was going to do ag engineering, and that wasn't going to happen. So I looked for another course, and so I majored in agronomy, and I kept hearing these people talk about agronomy sales, and I'm like, well, I don't know that I want to be a salesperson, because I associated that with car salespeople. Not that they're all bad, but just couldn't see myself in that occupation, and so I'd interviewed with Country Mark Co-op in Ohio there. In Delaware, where the main office was. And I just kept being persistent with them about finding a location. Tessie and I were engaged at the time, and I realized that I was currently not in a position to be able to support a family. I was working for the soil and water conservation there in Kentucky, and temporarily, and they wanted to send me to D.C. to the main office there, and that was too much concrete for me. So we went to northern Ohio. I started at U.S. Commission Company and worked there, did an internship there, and my wife and I got married. We lived there for I think almost 30 days before I got a job offer at Sunrise Co-op, and we moved over in Ashland, Ohio. And so I was in sales there for agronomy sales for 4.5, 5 years.
Wow.
And we had our first child, and wanted to get our kids back closer to their grandparents and to Kentucky. And so we moved down. I worked at Lafayette Valley for a couple of seasons, and then Scott Sharp and Tom Timmons came over, and we talked about coming to Jackson Jennings at the time. And so I came over here, and Scott was my boss there. We worked had a little fertilizer plant over here behind the fast stop. And it was just he and I and 2 other guys there for I don't know how many years till we built the place out at Cortland. And then I had an office out there for 3 or 4 years till I moved here to the main office then, whenever they had the new office there at for us. So it's been good.
You got to see all the changes.
Yeah.
At Jackson Jennings, then Premier Ag, and now the post after all the mergers. So you have got to see all the changes.
I have. I mean, it's been interesting. It's been challenging, but I think that I really don't feel like I could have been with a better organization to go through that. I mean, I've never feared for my position or my customers and all those changes. So
That's awesome.
that's been good.
Oh, that's real good. So, in your role at Premier Ag, what is your responsibilities in your role? What all do you sell?
So I sell crop protection products, plant food, services, application. We don't really sell the technology that we have, but through our tracks program, getting guys to understand their soil fertility and how they can use their yield data with that to be more profitable. We sell seed, corn, soybeans, wheat, and then we do scouting along with that, and recs that would go along with seeding recs and fertilizer recs, and we make lots of just crop plans for guys to help them work through changes and just the different opportunities that they may have.
What do you think? What's one of the most rewarding parts of your job?
Well, I'd say there's a couple of things. One is seeing your customers succeed and grow, and just seeing those things that you work with them together come out to a positive note, and seeing them be happy about it. It's business is busy, and they're busy, but whenever they take time to show that appreciation, it's really rewarding to me. And I'd say the other thing would be some of the young people that we get to work with, some of the the interns that come in, or the new salespeople, getting to help them develop into better salespeople and scouts and account managers. That's been fun.
Jeff's always kind of told me about like some of his first experiences as a young seller and working in ag, and it's been helpful because now we're going to have a lot of new folks coming on board, and just some of the same training that they're going to need that sometimes some of us didn't get.
Right. Well, you joke about it. I always joked about it. I won't use the exact farmer's name, but I was told to go to, let's just say, Bob Smith's house. And so you finally find Bob Smith's house because you've never been there before. And then when you pull in and you walk in the shop, there's 4 guys standing there. And when they see new blood come in, right, you don't know who Bob Smith is. And 3 of those 4 guys are not Bob Smith, obviously, but they'll all let you talk for a long time before they let you in on it. Well, you shouldn't really be talking to us. He's in there. Yeah. The guy you want to talk to is in there. Like, great. So, yeah, there's some of that would be helpful with a mentor.
Right. Well, and I think you still have all those. I still get anxious and nervous sometimes whenever you go meet those new guys. And I remember the very first place I really started in a sales position. I had a guy that was there, and he kind of trained me for a couple of weeks. And it was nearing time for him to leave the company, and so it was going to be up to me. And so I'd planned that whole next week out. I had an actual map with growers pinpointed on there, and I had a worksheet over here with their names and anything that I could collect about that person. And this company had recently gone through some mergers, and so I was trying to maintain contact with those people from the other companies that we've merged with. And so I had a pretty set course, and there was probably 15 growers each day that I was trying to get to. And, it wasn't a real thorough stop. It was just a meet and greet and see how we could get started. And I was about halfway through the day. I'd packed a lunch, and it was probably probably a 50 or 60 mile circle that I was going to make that day. And things were going pretty good. And I got to this one guy's place, and he says, "Well, have you, is so-and-so on your list?" And I'm looking through there, and I'm like, no, he's not. And he's like, "Well, he just lives down the road here. You might want to stop and see him." And I'm like, "Well, sure. Thanks for the lead."
Yeah.
I was pretty encouraged that the guy was being helpful, and kind of pumped up about this next opportunity. So I was pretty green.
Oh no. Is this the story?
It is a story.
Hey, is there just the story? I think we all have.
Story.
We have a lot of those.
Well, I was a cool ag salesman. I had my Ray-Ban sunglasses on, my hat, my
Pickup truck,
right? and the coat, and I pulled into the place and didn't see anybody around, and I kind of stepped out of the truck and tooted the horn and to see if I could get anybody. There was buildings all over the place. So finally, I see this guy in the back of this building, what I would have called a chicken house. It was laid up with block, about 4 block high, and then it had chicken wire from there on up, and then it had a tin roof. And he was back there in the back, and I kind of shouted out a greeting as I walked. It was probably 50 yards from my truck. He never looked up, never heard me, and there was no door on this building. And in fact, I couldn't even see what was in the building until I got over there, and there was hogs in there. And so I took about 2 steps inside that building and shouted out a greeting again. And he looked up, and he was in the very back stall with a pitchfork. And he looked up, and when he saw me, I'm like, he started cussing at me and yelling and coming down the aisle then towards me
with a pitchfork.
And I was speechless. I didn't know what to do, and so I started backing up. And as I backed up, I kind of had to look over my shoulder and see where my truck was, because I was starting to fear.
That was the direction you wanted to go.
I'm starting to fear for my life at that point. So I got all the way back up against my truck, and his son came running out from the side somewhere and was like, "Stop, Dad, stop. And I'm like, at that point, I really began to fear.
Oh my God.
Fear for my life. And he was like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, I don't know what I've done. And he's like, "Dad, what's the matter?" And he's like, "Well, he stepped inside my hog building." And he looked at me and he said, "Did you do that?" And I said, "Yes." And he's like, "Well, you don't do that."
Yeah.
And so, I was apologizing profusely, still had the Ray-Ban sunglasses on, and I'm sure tears were starting to emit from my eyes at that point. And he said, "You need to leave." And I said, "Okay." And I still get kind of nervous whenever I'm talking about this. But anyway, I get in the truck, and I was probably 40 miles from the office at that point. And so I drove straight back to the office to talk to my manager. I'm like, I can't do this.
I don't know if this is how this is supposed to go. It doesn't feel right.
I can do physics. I think I can figure out that engineering thing. And so I get back there. My boss was not there, and the other senior salesman at the place was not there. And so I said, I'm going home. And so I left to go back home. So it was another 30 miles from there back home. So I had all this time to think about, well, what am I going to do if I don't do this? And I get home, and my support person, my wife, she was in school at Ohio State getting her master's at that time, and so she wasn't home.
Oh my gosh! And no cell phones, right?
No. And so we were fairly new, right? 2 or 3 weeks into the area. We didn't know anybody.
Sure.
And so I said, well, I got to eat, and I'm not cooking anything myself. So I drove through the McDonald's drive-through, and somewhere between the order window, or where you give your order, and the window, I decided that things could be worse. I could be in that industry instead of the ag industry, and I realized at that point that there's going to be some days that you come upon people and they're not in a good mood.
Well, you found out later, of course. I mean, none of us would have known the first day on the job that the biosecurity, even back then,
right,
with trying to.
Right. So he had some problems with in the operation, and some of the neighbors were not real happy about that, and so he was extra cautious. And come to find out, he had been a board member of the co-op that had gotten merged, and he had not been selected to
oh my gosh,
to rejoin the board. So that the next time I was up that way, I remembered to go by that guy that had sent me over there, and I really thanked him for that. for that opportunity. So I've been cautious ever since then.
Did you ever get that guy as a customer?
Whenever I never went back to that
don't
guy. The other guy I did, but so you got to be cautious about those leads and
That's for sure.
That's a good story.
Never know what you're going to get into. But I thought then, that was, if that's the worst day of my career, I've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. Oh, that's for sure.
We ought to have a podcast. It's the worst days of our career. That might be just kind of compare those and just see. I think you'd be up there.
Well, for a young person,
Yep.
And like I said, we were 8 to 10 hours away from our folks and our other support group, and so that's what's been nice about having the organization around you. Whether it's my sales manager or other team members. You got good people around you to kind of share some of those things with and keep you grounded.
Sure.
Yep.
What's the most important skill to be good at your job? Resiliency, apparently.
My God.
Determination. Work ethic. I think our customers are they're busy all the time, and so sometimes we have to adjust our schedules a little bit to help accommodate the things that they need. So the work ethic, I'd say, from a personal standpoint, just honesty with people. I find that if you're not honest with yourself, you're probably not going to be honest with your clients along the way, and that's been key, I think, in maintaining relationships over a long period of time with customers. They don't make farmers every day, right? So if you lose that opportunity to go to that guy because of something you've said that was untrue, oftentimes you don't get the chance to go back. So
I was interviewing a young lady yesterday that wants to thinking about coming work for Premier Ag, and I told her that if helping people is not in your heart, you won't enjoy this job, because we don't build anything. We don't build ships, or we don't build houses or things like that. But what we are trying to do is what you started with is just to try to take out as many variables as we can with the cropping system and put together a successful crop every year. And that's what success looks like.
Right. I don't think that, in our business, we have people that are really good at, they know all the technical data. We have people that are good at scouting and identifying problems. And we have people that are good at resourcing information. And so realizing that, I think we're kind of being silly if we think we can do all those things really well. But to know people within your organization that can help you with those things has been key for sure. So
that's very good. Well, Ryan, that's all I've got. That's a good.
Well, quickly, you've told us all about work and some about family. What do you like to do outside of work? So when you have those days with a guy with a pitchfork, what do you do to take your mind off of it?
Right. Well, I again, family. We've always got people at our house. We have lots of guests in that stay at our place quite a bit. So we enjoy that. We enjoy cooking for them on the smoker, and I love to fish, and so I take every opportunity I can to go fishing whenever those things time's available. I have during COVID, we had my two girls were home from college, and we had two foster girls at the time. And my sister, or my wife, felt like it'd be a good idea to invite her sister up during that shutdown also. And
Your
so
sister-in-law.
It'd be my sister-in-law. And she had two girls also. So I don't know how many that is, but there was too much.
Seems like a lot.
Too much long hair in my house. So I had a little garden shed out back, and I kind of turned it into a little wood shed, and so I can go out there and make gifts for the grandkids.
Nice.
And things
cool.
like that. So
That's good.
Cool. Very good. That's all I've got.
That's all I've got.
Jeff, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for what you do and imparting your wisdom on some of the new ones for sure. I know they benefit from it.
Well, if I could make money just doing that, that'd be all right too.
Absolutely.
We haven't got paid yet for this. I hate to tell you.
You don't mean being a podcast guest though. You mean being a mentor.
Right.
All right. Well, that's another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Please like and subscribe.
Thanks.